Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Black Enterprises Inside the Studio. I'm your host, Jeroslyn Jovan. Today, we're going inside season 3 of Tracy Oliver's hit scripted series, Harlem. I'll chop it up with the cast and creator about the third and final season's theme of seeing all of the ladies and gentlemen strive to finally choose themselves above all else. So join me in welcoming the starring cast, Meagan Good, Jerrie Johnson, Shoniqua Shandai, Grace Byers, and Tyler Lepley, as well as Harlem's creator, Tracy Oliver, and season 3 newbies, Gail Bean, Logan Browning, and Kofi Siriboe. So it's an amazing season, amazing final season. I wanted to know, what has it been like producing such a sisterhood and female empowered show like Harlem?
Hmm. It's been amazing, and I will say that because I got really, really fortunate with this cast. They actually love each other, and the chemistry and all of the personalities, like all of that stuff is so real and authentic. So it's made my job a lot easier. There's nothing worse than working on something and everyone is not actually friendly, and
Yeah.
that was not the case here. So I'm friendly with them, they're friendly with me, they're friendly with each other, and it's a genuine love fest. And even with the crew as well. So it was the type of environment that I wished I had had when I was coming up. I just saw
Yeah.
so many black and brown women on set and working, and that was deliberate on my end to make sure that we saw a lot of people that look like us and that it was a feel-good, safe space for people to work. So it
I
was
love
great.
that. Season 3 sees the ladies striving to finally choose themselves above all else. What messages did you want to make sure to get across with that as the central and last theme of the final season?
I think art kind of imitates life and life imitates art. And I think one of the things that a lot of my women, myself included, were experiencing was life not necessarily following the pattern that you wanted when you were a kid. You want job security by a certain age, you want the partner by a certain age, you want kids um, in the way that you want them to have them, in the timeline that you want, and all of these things for us were not aligning in the way that we wanted, and just having to make peace with where we are and embracing it. And so that's what I went into the season thinking was like, they're all going to get a version of their dream, but it's not going to lay out the way that they thought. And it's not going to lay out maybe the way that they wanted. And maybe that's fine. That's how I'm approaching my life too. I have to also surrender to things that didn't align the way that I wanted. And maybe that's beautiful in itself. And you just have to like surrender to it. And maybe there's a different and a more beautiful path that we don't even plan for ourselves. So.
Exactly. Yes, I definitely got that from this season. So
Mhm.
even thank you for thinking of that and sharing that, because even as I'm in that place in my life with many
Yeah.
of these characters, and so are my friends, and I can relate to so much of what I was seeing on screen.
Yeah.
And it's been 3 extremely strong seasons of incredible storytelling, relatable characters. How does it feel closing out the show at season 3? And what do you look forward to when it comes to Harlem's legacy?
Hmm. Um, I'm very sad about this being the final season, but I'm also very grateful. And the reason I'm grateful is because I got to do the final season the way I wanted. I really did. I found out in the middle of the writer's room that it most likely would not have a season 4. And so I had a choice to make. They were like, you can stay on the path that you're on, or you can reroute it thinking that this is the end. And I was like, okay, I'm going to reroute it. So I rewrote the entire thing and rebroke the entire thing because I wanted it to go out in a way that if I was a viewer, I would feel like, okay, I'm glad I invested in the other 2 seasons. And I'm glad I went on this journey because they cared about these women and how their lives wrapped up. So I'm happy. I actually am genuinely happy with season 3, and I'm grateful I got the chance to close it out. And as far as the legacy of it, I'm already seeing um, newer writers wanting to read my scripts and read my old documents and see how I sold Harlem or how I did Girl Trip, and I just find that interesting because when I was in my 20s, I would study Mara Brock Akil or study Shonda Rhimes, and I would just be like, I want to be them. And so the fact that people ask me for my material, I'm like, it's just crazy to me. They want to read it and study it and see how I write or how I sell things and like how do you pitch? And they're like, we would love to study Harlem in particular was the most recent request that I got. And that means a lot. That means that I created something like when I was younger, when I watched Girlfriends, that somebody else of this new generation is watching as I want to do a show like this and to create something that people can point to and say, this Black woman did this. This was a show that featured 4 Black women. It shows it's possible
That's
and they have something to point to. So I'm honored by that.
you should be. Thank you so much for sharing your art. You're all introduced as new characters in season 3. You all did really well. Great performances from all of you. Logan, I'll start with you. You take on a challenging role as Portia, a woman from Ian's past whose return to Harlem causes a little drama. What do you think will be one of the biggest misconceptions about Logan?
About Portia?
Portia.
I hope this about Portia. I think people are probably possibly could watch and judge her and think that she's maybe too silent or too weak about some of her choices. There are moments when she speaks up, and lets Ian know how she feels, that she's gone along with certain things that are not okay with her.
Right.
I think that people will question why she didn't speak up sooner, why she didn't jump in sooner, why she didn't intervene. If that was really the man she wanted, why didn't she grab it? But I just think that she's the kind of person that's not her character. She's not gonna go. She's not Camille. Camille's gonna show up at her man's doorstep. Okay, that's
Here.
Camille.
Yes, she does. Kofi, your character, Seth, checks all of the boxes as it relates to an ideal catch for a woman, except for one major box, one huge box. In your opinion, do you think a woman who is looking for love should consider compromising, particularly in the way that Seth would like to, when a Seth comes into her life?
I think life makes you compromise. So I don't think a person should make you compromise. I think God forces us to compromise. So it would be more of a collaboration with Set rather than a compromise for Set. But it would have to be a decision she makes with herself and with God, in my opinion. I don't think his lifestyle or, the things that he offers should be the reason. But at the same time, again, life forces us to reduce sometimes and to simplify and to optimize. So I think he presents a wonderful opportunity, an opportunity for her to see herself further. And to be honest, either route she takes, as long as it's true to her,
Right.
is the right route. But yeah, it's a hell of a
Yes.
it's a hell of a scenario, circumstance. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Gail, great job this season. You play Eva, a powerhouse venture capitalist who is collaborating with Ty, and we see how their relationship unfolds. What will viewers learn from Eva when it comes to taking a chance on someone who still has growing up to do?
I think viewers will learn how to give the person who may not be as far along in their journey of growth grace. I think they will learn to also not be so quick to judge and how to, I'm not gonna say, how they have like this gentle parenting and we have soft life. I would say it would be gentle criticism.
Yeah. Yes.
Gentle guidance. They will
Mhm.
learn how to gently guide someone and allow them to see it for themselves in their own time.
Really, really great performances from all of you. Jerrie, I'll start with you. Season 3 sees the ladies strive to finally choose themselves above all else. In what ways does that relate to Ty this season?
Ty has thought that she was choosing herself, but she's been choosing her career and her success, and maybe even hiding behind that a little bit. And now she is choosing herself by choosing to let herself love and be loved in the way that she probably hasn't since we saw that flashback season 1, episode 8. And now she is allowing herself to be vulnerable and not using the excuses of her past pain to prevent her from moving forward in this loving, beautiful relationship.
Yes, yes. Meagan, we see a lot of new relationships budding among all the ladies, especially with Camille. And we know that growth typically comes from new relationships, new experiences. So in what ways will we see Camille grow from her new life-changing relationship in season 3?
I think that you will see Camille grow by, oh, that's a hard question. Without
Right.
like getting into everybody else's thing. I would say that Camille is, you'll see her change by her understanding that she is her North Star. I think she's looked outside of herself so much for these past few seasons of who she's supposed to be or what it's supposed to look like or what does this person think of this. And these are people that she loves and trusts, whether it be Dr. Pruitt or Ty or whoever it is. And I think that in this season, she's realizing that only she can answer that for herself at this junction. And I think that you'll see her letting go of some things, embracing some other things. And they're all things that I don't think that she had thought about in that way before. And so, yeah, I think she's just really coming into her own and accepting that, and not just accepting, but choosing that deep down inside, she knows who she is, even if it's different than what she thought.
Right. Or like might have expected, especially for a career-driven woman. For both of you ladies, for the whole entire cast, it's been such an incredible journey to watch. 3 incredibly strong seasons, great storytelling, relatable characters, relatable moments. How does it feel closing the show at season 3? And what do you look forward to when it comes to Harlem's legacy? Meagan, I'll start with you.
We look forward to this movie that we would like to happen. Sex and the City got their movie, Harlem wants theirs. And I think that the fans want it, so that,
Yes.
love the legacy. But the legacy of these past 3 years, I think that we've been allowed to do something for the culture. We've been allowed to have conversations that us as Black women haven't traditionally been able to not only have sometimes in regular rooms in life, but definitely not on TV. And to be able to explore them, rather, it's seemingly inappropriate or just completely honest and authentic, without judgment, but considering everything. And I think that the legacy of Harlem will be people saying, I can see myself in one, if not all of these characters. And I hope that people feel seen. I hope that they feel the love that we put into these characters, not just for the characters and not just as actresses, but the love that we're putting into them for them, because we hope that it reflects them. And it sucks that that it's ending, but it also is, you don't want to overstay your welcome. It's better to really, really high note and for people to, yeah.
And you did. Jerrie, anything to add?
Yeah, that was beautiful. I would say that I hope that we're talking about Harlem like we're talking about Martin, living single, like we're talking about girlfriends. My fiance and I were just watching the Bernie Mac show, like those shows that truly were a reflection of that time that you can go back to and be like, oh yeah, this was a place that I was in then, or maybe I was watching that before my time and I'm getting a different seeing out of it now during the pandemic. I was just watching Living Single on loop because I just love it so much and I love those characters so much. And so I hope that this can be sort of a guiding post for people who are wanting comfort while they live life. And I hope that these authentic stories continue to grow in the ether as we wait and prep for our movie. That this isn't the last time you see these characters, but that there is enough out of these 3 seasons that you still feel reflected, you still feel comforted, you still feel seen, and you still feel like you got that we got something for us. You know what I mean?
Shoniqua, I'll actually start with you. Season 3 sees the ladies strive to finally choose themselves above all else. Very important theme. How does that relate to Angie this season?
Yes, you see Angie finally getting what she's always prayed for. Well, I don't know if she was praying for it, but definitely manifesting and sowing the seeds for it. And also an answer to a humongous question that she was having about whether she was deserving or qualified, because she had suffered so many career blows that made her doubt her ability. And so finally to have that answered and manifested in such a beautiful way, and then also get the beautiful balance of beautiful sisterhood and love. She is faced with the question of whether she can have all of it at once, or is there anything that might need to shift? And you see her stumble with prioritizing being 100% available to everyone. There's moments where her sisterhood misses her and even her relationship. So it's can a woman have it all is answered with her this season.
Yes, yes. Grace, we see Quinn falling for Seth, who checks all of the boxes except for one major box. Okay. Do you think that a woman looking for love should consider compromising when a Seth comes into her life?
Let me tell you what, okay? You better ask that question without giving anything away, girl. Okay? You better. Thank you. I do not think that you should compromise if it's a deal breaker.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to know yourself in order to know what that deal breaker is, right? Because if it's such a deal breaker for you, then you're ultimately going to find yourself back in this position where you're like, actually, I was happier by myself. If it is something that you didn't originally have, you know, I don't want to say like on your list, but something that you weren't originally thinking about. But when you're faced with it, you're kind of like, it's not my preference, but it's something that you feel like you can compromise on, and it's something that you don't feel like it's going to take you outside of yourself, or something that can't be worked on, then I think that's different. But if it is truly a deal breaker for you, in the end, you're not going to be happy after all, and you're knowing what you're getting into as you get into it. So that would be my stance on that.
Yeah, and I like, because we'll be able to see that navigated through Quinn. And so for both of you ladies, it's been 3 extremely strong, incredible seasons of amazing storytelling, relatable characters and situations. So how does it feel closing the show at season 3? And what do you look forward to when it comes to Harlem's legacy? Shoniqua, I'll start with you.
It feels bittersweet. I'm saddened to see these characters that I love so much and these women that I love so much on and off screen leave us. But I'm so grateful that we got closure. I'm so grateful for the way that Tracy wrote this final season, that your questions are answered. And I pray that just like what I received from being a part of the show, that the audience receives how important it is to say yes to you in all capacities, on the courageous essence of all of these women, how they boldly chase after what they desire and aren't afraid to fail, and the grace of being able to give yourself the ability to take risk. I hope that everyone receives that. I think we can sometimes get caught in the art of comparison and look at other people's results and miss the nuance of the journey of getting to. And you definitely receive that in the women throughout the whole series. So I hope that everyone enjoys their journey too a bit more after watching the show.
Yeah. Grace?
Yes, Shoniqua, all of the things. I would also include that the only thing more sad than saying goodbye to a project like Harlem is having never experienced it at all. And so I'll take this version. I'll take this version of being a part of something that I felt was life-changing, both personally and professionally, something that has healed us in a lot of ways as to what experiences can be personally and professionally. And so I will forever be grateful to Harlem for that, and also to Tracy for giving me an opportunity to show the world that drama may have been where I started, but comedy has been something that I've always wanted to do, and her believing that I can do that. And so I think all of that is special. And to just quickly piggyback off of Shoniqua and say, I hope that everybody watching these seasons and this show can walk away just furthering their own journey and their conviction to knowing who they are. And I pray that everybody feels empowered to be able to stand in their truth and stand in their authenticity, and to share their stories and to embrace their flaws, and to just live life in a big, beautiful, authentic, genuine way because of this show.
We see new relationships budding among all of the characters, your
Yeah.
Ian included.
Mhm.
And we know that growth typically comes from new relationships and new experiences. In what ways will we see Ian grow from his new relationships in season 3?
I think we see him continue to grow in a similar space. You know, this is a man that's always been unapologetic about him wanting to be a certain type of father. You know, the family dynamic is really important to him. He's you know, he came from that, and we see that reflected in his family. You know, we saw his mother and father throughout the series, and I feel like that's a place he continues to expand. That's kind of what takes him, you know, from one relationship into the next relationship, is this idea of fatherhood. So he definitely continues to expand in that space, I think.
Yes. So there are a lot of mixed debates when it comes to a breakup and still kind of lingering on to your ex after a breakup.
Yeah.
When it comes to Camille and Ian, would you say that post-breakup hookups is healthy or unhealthy?
You know, to each his own. You know, everybody's gonna have a different response. I feel like when it gets messy is when you know, you're unclear of, like, you know, your boundaries and what it is that you're expecting and want. And I think it gets a little bit messy when you know, we open a new chapter before fully closing you know, your previous chapter. So I feel like their initial hookup was I don't think there was anything, you know, crazy about it, because they still do have this natural love and attraction for each other, and they hadn't begun a new relationship yet. So I feel like that was still a part of them saying goodbye.
Right.
Um, and they, you know, they actually were direct about this being, you know, I think X sex is what they called it or
Right.
whatnot. But I feel like, you know, after that, when he goes, you know, when he goes there for a little while, not that he handled that the right way. He is trying to close the chapter when he moves on with Portia.
Most definitely.
But you know, yeah, he went through a whirlwind this year.
Yes, yes. And we see Ian really man up. I
Yeah.
commend Ian in season 3. And while he's still choosing himself and what he wants in life, what do you think will be viewers' takeaway from Ian's storyline this season?
Well, even within some of the mess that we're going to see, I think underneath it, you know, even when there's still aspects where he's really trying to honor how he's going to be a co-parent with Camille. You know, he's articulate about it. He's direct about it. He's open with it, right? He listens to her, and he tries to give her that. You know, he shows up to the appointments. Again, of course, there's still you know, there's still mess surrounding it, but I feel like we can take that away from him. He does stand on what he said. You know, he was going to be there for her. You know, emotionally, mentally, financially. You know, we see it a little bit. So he is trying to be the best co-parent and father that he can be. So I think we take that away from him for sure.
Most definitely. How does it feel? We're closing out season 3. What do you look forward to when it comes to Harlem's legacy?
I think the legacy that I want everybody to take away is that, you know, Harlem had this beautiful way of becoming its own character in the show, you know, outside of the title. So, well, you know, one thing I want everyone to take away is that, you know, a place like Harlem deserves to be preserved. And we see what goes on with the gentrification, but it's like, you know, the soul of some of these places is just, it's you know, it's beautiful. Harlem is a beautiful place, and it deserves to be celebrated and heard and preserved. Like I said, as we get into the series of it, I feel like it's just been a beautiful home, to not only cultivate a beautiful story, but just to just be like a beautiful illustration of what we're going through on a day to day. Obviously, with you know, all the beautifully portrayed Black women that we see, but also even in some of the male characters that we see. You know, I think as you look at it as a whole, it's like I feel like we're represented the right way, and I wish that there was more, because it was a beautiful 3 seasons. I'm gonna be sad to see it go.
I know, but thank you so much for sharing your light, the 3 seasons that you've been a part of it. You've done a great job, so thank
And I
you.
appreciate that. Thank you.